Lekker.
Okay, guys, we just have to finish one tweet and then we're up. Did you just post it? Okay, very good. No, just kidding. We're here to discuss today about finding space to think in an always-on world. And with us are a really diverse panel with, I think, a really nice separate idea of how this concept works. And I would love to hear from Edith first. I've heard you're a firm believer in thinking fast and thinking slow. Could you elaborate on how that works and how does it improve your work or your life?
Yeah, so I'm Edith Harbaugh. I'm CEO and co-founder of LaunchDarkly. We help software teams eliminate risk in their release from concept to launch. Software is something that takes a long time. Like, you can't make software overnight. Any good software actually takes a lot of thought about, am I building the right thing? Am I testing it? And all the way through to, do users really like it? So thinking fast and thinking slow is this idea that you have the part of your brain that is very reactive. Yeah. Like, you're in the savannah, a lion jumps out. You don't have time to think. You're just like, I need to get out of here. You start running. However, there's another part of your brain, which is the slow part, which actually needs a lot more time to think and kind of ruminate about, like, what am I doing in this savannah? Why are the lions always chasing me? And that's like, just, you need a different space in your head to have those kind of thoughts.
And how does that improve your work or your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all sit at a desk every day and you become very reactive. Like we were talking backstage about, there's always a Slack message, there's always a tweet, there's always something that you feel like you have to respond to right now. Particularly if you're the founder, you're like, oh, I need to be on top of everything. But then you fall in this trap of you're reacting, and you're not taking a step back and thinking. So like what I do a lot is I'll go for really long runs. My longest run is 100 miles because I find that when you have an hour or 2 or 3 or 4, 10 or 30, your mind goes to a different mode where you can make connections between different things and really have space to think.
So for you, really running is also a method of freeing your mind. And
yeah, I mean, it's a repetitive motion, and you're just, I like trail running, so you're outside and you find yourself that you have time. You're not checking your phone, you're not answering a Slack email, you're just thinking.
Yeah, it's impossible. Like running and texting at the same time is not really a good idea.
I can actually run and tweet, but that's why I try to also run outside on trails where you get no cell signal, so you're kind of forced to.
Yeah, exactly.
To not tweet.
Okay, Layne, with your creative background, how can one be the most productive and creative in life? Is creativity a perfect case of serendipity, or is it just really hard work that you have to do over and over again?
That's a tough question. I think it's, for me at least, I look at everything as a brief, and I look at everything as work. So whether that's a tragedy in my life, whether that's culture, art, or dreams, it's always a reason to be creative. So I never take a second to like step outside of myself and say, okay, I'm going to take these 10 minutes to think, or I'm going to, like how you go for a run. My mind never shuts off. So I think for me, it's just looking at everything as a reason to make something.
And do you surround yourself with certain things to make yourself more efficient or happy?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can say I just live a creative lifestyle. Yeah. Because especially living in New York City, and for me, basically running 2 companies, which is Fake Love, and running all the innovation for New York Times, I have no free time. No. So I just like, if you walk in my office, it's just surrounded. There's toys, there's posters, there's everything. Everything that's just going to make me smile all day.
Super, and also pictures of old memories and stuff on the desk.
Yeah, there's stuff that I got, I think, when I was a baby. There's like sitting on a shelf. And there's stuff I just bought probably on this trip that I'm just going to look at, and it's going to remind me of something that made me smile.
Doesn't it also give you the feeling that when you're more happy that you're not actually at work, so mentally it frees up more time? You have more space to work because you have more time?
Yeah, I guess fortunately or unfortunately for me, if I was ever at a job that I didn't like, I would just leave it. Yeah. And it was more just like, screw everyone else. I didn't really care if like people were upset around me. I would just be like, peace. And I feel like I've been fortunate that way, but I don't look at work as work. And once it starts feeling like work, it's time to go.
Very smart.
Yeah.
Natan, I'm pronouncing that correctly?
You are, thank you.
Good, good. You're the supervising producer of the Shortly Awards. Were there any challenges on the way of growing that platform?
Sure, and your stories are already inspirational for me, so I've gotten some good advice. You know, my company, right, we do the Shorty Awards, and we also have a software platform for PR professionals called Muckrack. And, you know, when I first started at the company, it was just me and the two co-founders. Now we're about 30 people, and it's changed quite dramatically. But I very much didn't understand or get any idea at all of turning off or taking time. It was something I didn't believe in. I thought other people had to do it, but I didn't. And I really tried hard to avoid ever disconnecting because I loved what I was doing and I wanted to always do it. So, you know, one time where I hit a wall was I go to Singapore every year for a conference, and when I used to go the first couple of years, many of you know, Singapore and New York are 12-hour time difference.
Yeah.
So I'd have these fantastic days where I'd do a full day in Singapore, 9 p.m. would roll around, and then it would be 9 a.m. in New York, and I'd do another almost full day.
Oh my God.
And stay up through the night. And I felt kind of great. It was almost like I was on a bit of a high by the end of it. But eventually I realized how unhealthy that was, how not sustainable it was.
Yeah.
So I very much believe in, you know, going off the grid, whether it's on weekends or vacation. And our company has developed our whole, you know, our whole handbook around taking time off and how important it is. And we don't really let anyone ever take vacation where they're checking email. We will yell at them if they're on their email and say, no, go back to the beach. This will be okay. And so I think more companies need to be proactive about doing that. Otherwise, your employees who love your company and love what they're doing won't take the well-needed time that they must to recover.
Yeah, and to charge the battery and be full and up and running again once they're back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, yeah, it's also the fear of missing out, I think, and that they want to check in because there's all new information coming back and they want to connect to that information. In Europe, we use WhatsApp. But here in the States, Slack is used, I think. Do your work teams work with such messenger systems, and do you have separate groups also, the teams making their own groups and working with each other?
So my co-founder was actually from Atlassian, and the joke was, so Atlassian makes HipChat, and the joke was that he was, I think, the #1 or #2 user of all messages at Atlassian itself when they did a study. So I think the key with using tools like this is like for now when I'm at this conference, I told the team, you know, I'm not going to read everything that's written. Like there's just too much going on when you start to be a bigger team. If it's really important, let me know, and I'll respond. But I think you have to let go of the fear of missing out. And like you can't read every message, you can't read every meme, you can't read every tweet stream. You just have to let go of that so that actually gives you the freedom then to focus on what's important.
Yeah, but once again, that triggers into your discipline because you're a very disciplined person. Otherwise, you could not run 100 miles.
You gotta, there's always more than you can do. I mean, right now there's 5 other stages going on, but people chose to be here and see us. Like you have to sometimes make choices in life and say, this is what I'm doing right now, and I'll be totally present.
But how does that translate to your teams? Do your teams also have the discipline, or you give them the discipline to?
Yeah, like we have a rule in our company that if you're in a meeting, you're not allowed to use a laptop or a phone unless you're presenting. Because I found that if everybody has their laptop open, suddenly everybody is sitting there and you're not actually having a meeting.
Yeah, true.
Like people are not as good at multitasking as they think they are. Like suddenly everybody's checking their email, writing this one response, and they look up and it's like, what are we even talking about?
Yeah. And Natan, at your office, are they using Slack or?
Yeah, I mean, I find that people are generally awful in multitasking, and I find I'm the one that implemented Slack in my office, and now I find it like abusive.
Yeah.
Almost like what we were talking about earlier. It's like a text message at this point. Like if you don't answer it, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
But I think it's really hard for everyone to stay connected all the time. But typically for us, we'll just say, you know, pick up the phone or just get off your ass and walk to someone's desk and talk to them. You know, and especially in my office because there's people on their laptops, but there's also people like in VR headsets and, you know, using AR stuff and whatever else they're doing. And it's really hard to get people's attention.
And do you think the move that will come after smartphones, the move to AR or mixed reality, will change the concept of checking and always being online, because it's literally in your face?
Yeah, I think it will be better for everyone. Like, I have this image of this dystopian future right now, especially living in New York City, where like everyone's backs are going to start hunching and their necks are going to get longer from looking at their phones. Like, I was in the subway yesterday and all the cops there were on Snapchat. Like, I was like, I could have been getting murdered right there. But especially for us, since we live at Fake Love, we live a lot in the augmented reality space, and since you're looking like this, at the very least, you're looking at the world.
Yeah.
And for us, that's really good because you're paying attention, and it's new ways to be creative rather than just like sucked into staring at the ground.
And last but not least, Natan?
Sure. Yeah, I think, Slack was very transformative to our company. I'm a big believer in it. And, I've heard a lot of examples of people implementing some way to communicate that's not email, and then it kind of goes wary and becomes, no man's land or too obsessive. And so we've created really good structure and guidelines and rules and how to make it effective. And no matter which way you look at it, I personally believe email is horrible and should only be used when you need to communicate with someone not at your company. So I think the challenges with it feeling like a text or always being on have nothing actually to do with Slack or whatever platform you're using. It has to do with the expectations you set within your company. So if you're launching any kind of new communication plan, you can't just throw an app on someone and expect everyone to use it in the same way. You have to advise how to use it. So that's what's been helpful for us, and I think it's actually helped people unplug really well. For example, Slack automatically puts you in snooze mode after hours. You actually have to change the settings if you don't want that to be the case, so you don't get notifications. Email never did that, and when you're at a huge organization, it really helps, because then if you Slack someone after 5 p.m., most of the time they're not going to get the push notification on their phone unless they've personally decided to adjust the settings. So that's why I'm a big believer in, ending email as a form of communication at companies, especially growing ones that need to do things offline more.
I actually disagree. I think email is really, really helpful. I think Slack and HipChat encourage really short bursts, and email encourages you to sit down and actually think and write a paragraph. Like Slack, you're like, oh, I better get my reply in right now before the thread moves on. Whereas email, you could say like, okay, what's the point I'm trying to make? What are the supporting points? What's the overall message? And with Slack, you're just like, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I often do find myself being able to write thoughtful emails. What I've felt as I've used Slack more, because Slack's existed for a minuscule amount of the time as email has, is there's no reason you can't start writing Slack messages in that way. You might feel that it needs to be more instant, but if you create a culture where it doesn't need to be, you can easily write thoughtful messages on Slack and not respond instantly. And our company does that all the time, and it prevents unnecessary reply-alls on emails. It makes it clear who a message is directed at. You're able to instantly react to something with an emoji versus having to reply all. So I hear you, and I think a lot of people feel that way. I just disagree.
Yeah, and I also disagree that Slack is something new. I mean, I remember using IRC for a long time. I mean, Slack is just a prettier IRC chat room.
Totally.
I actually think they both have their own purpose. So like email is just telling a story, and Slack is just triggering, oh, we need to do stuff now. The main problem I have with email is you have a message in there which is later to be confirmed by something. If you don't get the confirmation back from that email, it never happened. The reason why email is used for that sort of communication, I personally hate that as email. And don't know, how is it done in your office?
We talk to each other.
Yeah, that's the best probably. Just communicate.
I agree.
Face to face.
Yeah, that's the best way.
Now Slack has video chat and calling.
Yeah, I mean, we're a pretty virtual office where most of the time, and like today, I can say like half of my company's in Sydney, but there's a bunch of people in LA, there's a bunch of people in Singapore, and yeah, we do use like Slack video, and we hang out, and the 10 other things that are possible ways to talk to each other, but nothing just nothing beats just like the face-to-face or picking up a phone. So.
Is this all discussed during inboarding of new employees? Because I heard you say you have a guideline actually for the employees that work at your office. Is it?
Yeah, totally. I mean, we have a very good onboarding that we've evolved, but it's a combination of understanding the language and commands within a tool like Slack or even email, which is not all that complicated, but then also, explaining what the different channels are used for, when to participate on them, who owns responding to certain things so it's clear, and the big recognition that, if something's important, don't rely on someone seeing your Slack, call them or find them.
Yeah. Just walk over to them. Do you have any guidelines at work that you just hand over? Does that go naturally?
I think for us it's more about resourcing and allocations for people, because we at any one time, like right now, I think we have 14 projects going on right now and probably about 8, 9 briefs and pitches. So it's constantly a go. For everything. So, I mean, we do have a system, but I find it's pretty organic and it changes every day. And every time we try to sit down and make any kind of system for anything from working on projects to making time, it just goes out the window a little bit. Especially for us, like I said earlier, since we're doing work for New York Times and we're servicing that, and then we're also doing work for ourselves. And so it's a constant fire hose of work.
And the communication with customers, is that on the same base, or is that always via email, or is it also via WhatsApp? How do you do that?
I guess the same way everyone else talks to their clients. For us, I find that it's a lot of face-to-face. It's a lot of Google Hangout, a lot of Hangouts.
And for you both as well? It's a lot of...
I'm a startup founder, and what's interesting is that our chat rooms continue to evolve as our organization continues to evolve. So it's kind of Conway's law is that as we onboard different people, as we onboard different teams, they get a new chat room.
Yeah.
So when we started off, it was my co-founder and us, and it was just one room. And then as you get bigger, you're like, okay, I need a room for this and a room for that. And oh, by the way, this room is underpopulated, let's close it. So I think it's just like anything else. Your communication style evolves as your company evolves.
Okay, next to that, are you embracing also happiness as a possibility to create more time and space? Just so make an environment, like Layne said, they're creating a happy environment, if you like, an environment where you're comfortable with. And does that improve your work as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so important that you enjoy what you're doing. So we have an unlimited vacation policy, and the joke is that people actually take it. Like one of our engineers just went for a week and a half in Japan.
Oh, nice.
And he came back totally recharged and said, "I'm really happy to be back." And that's what you want, is you want people who have time away to think and then come back ready and excited to work again.
Yeah, we do the same thing. We saw their startups start to do that. So we have unlimited vacation as well. And something I try and do amongst our leadership at our company is put pressure on everyone to actually take vacation, because if, the founder isn't doing it, the staff isn't going to do it. So it's good that you're doing it.
One of the things that helps me, actually, there are some Dutch proverbs that really help me to rationalize and free up my mind once I'm under pressure, for instance. One of them being, under pressure, everything turns into liquid. And the other one being, you don't eat an elephant in one go. For me, that helps free up my mind and understand the process I'm going through. Do you have any proverbs that you live by or really enjoy? Fit your...
I have two. One that we have in our office when you get in is make beautiful mistakes. And I'm sure everyone's seen it's the don't be afraid to fail, because there's great things will come out of that. And then the other one is you make nothing with the time, money, and resources you don't have. So work with what you do have, because it's all you've got.
Yeah. So it's kind of similar to your elephant. It's like, how do you move a mountain stone by stone? I got this. I was talking to my friend Oren, and he said, would you move a mountain for your company? I said, yes, I would move a single rock every day, and at the end of a bunch of days, that mountain would be moved.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what a startup is. You're not You have limited resources, you have limited time. You can't bulldoze or dynamite that mountain, but you can chip it away day after day after day.
Yeah, I think I don't know if they're exactly proverbs, but two that I live by a lot is, one is a simple one, no pain, no gain. So if something isn't difficult, you might not progress. And then the second one is, and I remembered where it was from, for my 8th grade yearbook, I had to find a quote, and I've forever lived by it. So Michael Jordan once said, "I failed over and over and over again, and that's why I succeed."
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Very similar, but
Yeah.
important to know.
I love that one because like I've failed so many times at running 100 miles, but every time I would learn something new until I could finish it.
If you did 90, it's still very impressive.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just you want to do 100.
Do you have some final thoughts before we have to go on the subject?
Gosh, I mean, we definitely plug Slack today. I mean, I would just say, live a creative lifestyle. You know, don't worry about well, shit, I gotta take 2 hours today to take time out to go sit under a tree, because you won't do it, and you'll end up just falling asleep there. Just surround yourself with things that make you happy, and you'll have good thoughts out of that.
That's awesome advice for startups, by the way.
I would actually say go find that 2 hours, and if sleep is what you need, you actually if you're sleep deprived, you make extremely bad decisions. So there's this myth
Sure.
that you need to work 20 hours a day like you did, and I'm sure when you did that,
Wasn't fun,
and your work quality probably started falling off a cliff.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think make sure you force your companies to try new things. One thing our CEO did when he didn't really understand Snapchat, and we create an award show that honors the best of social media. So one Friday, he actually forced our whole company to only communicate via Snapchat. Obviously not with clients, but internally. And everyone learned a lot about Snapchat that way. And I don't think we're going to be replacing Slack or email with Snapchat anytime soon, but
No.
still a good thing to try and do to force people to try something that's affecting your business.
Excellent. Well, thanks all for the advice. Thanks all for coming. Thank you all for coming. And have a wonderful stay in New Orleans. And see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.